Look, you all know what my favorite monster is. But today, I don't want to talk about Brachydios. I want to talk about the perfect monster. Though in order to do that, I do need to start by talking a little bit about Brachydios. And I'll try my best to do it without being weird. Oh, Brachy. Okay, in all seriousness then, is Brachydios not a peak example of why Monster Hunter is just so much fun, so endearing, and so deeply, almost instinctually appealing? Because Brachydios essentially comes with two sentences in his existence. Number one, someone at some point went, "What if we design a monster that punches things with explosions?" And of course someone went, "Yeah, that's a great idea, because of course it is. That's an amazing sentence, never mind bringing it to life." But then, and this is what separates Monster Hunter from everything else, someone else went, "Okay, yeah, but as long as we make it somewhat believable." And then they did that too, having this creature, this brute wyvern, who happens to have the specific ecological properties that let it have this specific symbiosis with this specific type of mold that goes by the name of slime mold, and together they create this unstoppable force of explosion, death, dealing, jumpy, punchy fun. We go, hey, let's create this sort of fungus, and how it's going to breed is it will slowly grow until it reaches a critical mass, then it will react with the hot volcanic air, which will cause it to explode, and in that explosion its spores will be scattered throughout the volcano to create new slime patches. That works. A lot of plants do similarly propagate that way. Not with literal explosions, but you would be surprised at just how ingenious so much of our flora is at getting its seeds where they need to be. Very cool. Then we have a creature who, let's say its shell neuters that explosive property while in contact. It has a counter agent in it that renders the reaction inert, or at the very least much lesser. Alright, and then let's say that this creature's saliva happens to act as a growth stimulating substance to this specific fungus. That's a thing that happens. There's plenty of ways to instigate growth in an organism if you introduce the right chemicals in the right way. We combine that, let it live on the creature, so that when it interacts with the world, it leaves this mass-growing slime upon the world that then, of course, does its natural explodey. Slime isn't trying to kill anyone, it's just breeding all over you. I just said that sentence. I'm so sorry. But you get what I'm saying, right? That's really cool. What a neat little package. Slime in a fantasy believable way, Brachy in a fantasy believable way that works with it, punch, even shell, explosive, brute wyvern. Excellent. Jobs are good, and give it a fun moveset, jump about the place, give it some pace, give it some power, amazing flagship, introduce the blast element itself, initially as slime, but he is the father of the boom, defining an entire status that has evolved and continued to this day. He stands in firm place in the Monster Hunter Hall of Legends for everything he does and has brought, and for how simply unique he is. And it is that reason that he is my favorite monster. How he be is magnificent, his fight is magnificent, and there really isn't anything about him that doesn't just, to me, emblemize the very essence of what makes Monster Hunter so goddamn awesome. But he is not the perfect monster. So why did I just spend a load of time giving a TLDR rundown on why he's so cool? Because the perfect monster is a version of him. Raging Brachydios. No, not the original Raging Brachydios, which was fun, a giant, slower, but much more brutal version of Brachydios that lives in a much more remote volcanic region, that's a variant that comes about by a much more volatile and intensive subspecies of the slime mold that is so destructive it actually kills most Brachydios that try and utilize it, but the few that can handle it become Raging Brachydios, and the reason the few can handle it is they possess an immortal reactor, a strange organ that actually lets the Brachydios almost feed off the essence of the mold, which also greatly extends its lifespan, letting it grow larger, letting it become more experienced, and let it become even more proficient in battle. It truly is a wonderful take, but even that original Raging Brachydios is not the perfect monster. But in Iceborne, we got this. And this modern take on Raging Brachydios is to me the perfect monster in design, in fight, and certainly in its theme. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The reason I want to do this video is simply to go over what I do believe to be peak Monster Hunter on every level. And you know why I love Brachydios as a creature, his lore, his ecology. And of course I've made many talks onto that in his own dedicated lore videos. But the actual hunt itself, the mechanical fun to be had, Iceborne Raging Brachydios really takes the cake for me. He was the headliner of that title update, Furious Rajang, the supporting cast. You face him in the Guiding Lands, this new and exciting zone for Iceborne. You first jump down and you see him, looking both glorious and gorgeous in shiny 5th gen sheen, standing there, proud, massive, and waiting for the battle to come. He's doing his thing, licking his slime, exploring the area, marking his territory, all good stuff, and then you engage, and you are treated to that roar. Goosebumps. And thus we go. He's not too slow, but he's not too fast, but he is faster than you'd expect for his size. And he hits hard, really hard, with offbeat rhythmic combos, explosions everywhere. You really kind of feel, okay, alright, this is gonna take some killing, some hunting, and indeed, he was no pushover when he first came out, and you battle him, and that's all well and good. You learn his super slime, his super blast, and you roll with it. He enrages and gains access to room-wide minefield slime. His triple line drag towards you that was so brutal to learn and deal with, got so many carts early on, and generally just try and cope with how this huge creature is giving such a relentless, explosive, literally onslaught everywhere all at once, and you're just, okay. And then you eventually get him low enough, and the little green scout flies come up to signal that he's on the move, and on the move he is, specifically to the next zone, specifically when you do get him low enough. See, this hunt doesn't follow normal hunt rules as we know. It has specific stages dictated by health. He will progress deeper into the lands, leading to the final arena as you whittle him down, and if you were to do all his health and damage -1, he'd just immediately walk to his final zone and then die to like a slinger shot. And normally that kind of gaminess, that sort of boss battle phaseness, doesn't really work too well in Monster Hunter. It has done in the past, but it should be used sparingly when it makes sense, and this is one of those times. So you keep on trucking as you essentially fight him through the Guiding Lands, which is that feeling it creates, battling him across the map, and you'll end up in the lavery fire area of the Guiding Lands. And it's here it really starts to, well, turn up the heat. and once more you go to town on each other and try your best to come out on top. Obviously the same moveset, but you're getting closer to the end now. You've been fighting a lot longer, you've probably broken some parts, you've been seeing this more super enhanced, super explosive, more damaging slime drip off him. Maybe you've discovered that water moss, like with base Brachydios, can calm his glowing spots down, wash off the slime, which is a really neat little mechanic, honestly, and something I'm really glad that they put in. And you're learning all of his nuances. You're maybe getting a mount, you're getting your flint shot, you're tenderizing him, you're trying to cope with the new space you're in, with the lava zones that do drain your health when you stand in them, and all in all, you're having the absolute time of your life. And if this is where you killed him, if this is where it ended, I would think that he's just, yeah, a really solid, faithful update to the Raging that we knew. It's 10 out of 10, Brachy is my favourite monster, this is his best version, it's a great fight, alright, but maybe not title update, star attraction level. But then we go that one step further that I think tips this over the edge to be one of the best fights in all of Monster Hunter, and for me specifically, the perfect monster, the perfect encounter, the perfect hunt. He goes to, well, the Thunderdome. The final cage for your final fight. A true you versus him showdown to the death. No capturing him, no retreating unless it's on a cart or with his slain corpse behind you. It is now or never, it is do or die, it is all or nothing. And that is such a fun mentality to go into a zone. Nothing that you've been learning or relying on now can work. You can't run, you can't reset, you can't restock. That, like, oh no, is so just deeply satisfying, and is more reminiscent of the older Monster Hunter games where, yeah, basically you had your one Firecaster and then you were done until you carted in a lot of the more arena-y maps. So you're here now, and he starts beating the ground like the most cacophonous blast drum. And now it begins, and then once again that theme kicks in. And you know, when lyrics are present in a Monster Hunter theme, it's gotten real. You are in for one heart-palpitating experience. And thus it is. Flipping the slime on its head, changing how he works on a base level. I would argue that this zone is technically, mechanically easier than the rest of his fight, but the presentation of it and the feeling it creates, especially when you're first there, makes it harder. His slime no longer automatically detonating, now it rests on the ground permanently. So the space that you're in, the space that you can't leave, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The safe pockets get depleted and depleted and depleted. And you look to this Brachydios, who is now not covered in this glowing slime. Still is in places, sure, but there's something different about him. He's steaming. He seems like he's struggling, and oh, what's that? He's actually taking little bits of damage from his own explosions. That's strange. Why? Well, remember earlier when I went over how a Raging comes to be? The extra intense slime mold is lethal to many Brachydioses that can't handle it. So now you've pushed this one to the limit. You've cracked his shell with blow after blow. You've battled him down. He's exhausted. He is digging deep. Adrenaline, his source of energy. Now he is susceptible in part to his own slime mold. You've pushed him to that point, and he doesn't care. He knows that, and he does not care. If he has to blow himself up to end you, and the audacity that you've had to dare to challenge him, then that's a worthy price to pay. And so you feel the desperation of this fight. You're burning in hot slime everywhere, running out of space. He is slowly killing himself with his own explosions as he tries to kill you. Everything is just ending, and there can only be moments before someone gives up and dies. And that is such a well-executed and awesome sensation in the final moments of a hunt. And then we get the point at which this becomes a masterpiece of an encounter. That roar to ignite the slime, to send a final wave of heat washing through the area, tipping it over the edge, to detonate the entire zone with this most brutal, guttural, in pain yet defiant yell. It is shivers every single time I hear it, and everything resets and we go again. He is a boxing explosive wyvern, and in this final zone, it's quite literally round 1, round 2, round 3, and his ignition roar is the bell for each of them. And is that not beautiful in its essence and how it has been put together? And eventually one of you will leave. One of you will fall, and one of you will claim victory. And when he does drop, and you can see just how good he looks, oh, you feel right accomplished, you do. Especially if it's your first time conquering the Raging Brachydios solo when he first came out. From ecology to theme to mechanics to the environment to the flow of the battle, I don't think there's a single weak moment. I don't think there's a poorly designed moment. I don't think there's an unbalanced moment. I don't think there is a single second where this doesn't feel like the best Monster Hunter can be, and a real shining example of why this series can be so utterly satisfying. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, maybe perhaps a random talk, but one I wanted to have and finally put into words why I do love not just Brachydios, but so specifically Raging Brachydios' encounter in Iceborne, and why for me it is the perfect monster. I would love to know what your guys' thoughts on your own perfect monster, perfect hunt, perfect experience, where it all just comes together, well, as I said, perfectly. And for now then, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.